Hi everyone and welcome to this week's Monday Memo. With many businesses recently closing their doors and essential services struggling to keep going, I get a lot of questions. I'm quite curious myself as to know what kinds of actions CFOs and finance teams are taking within their organisations to deal with this Covid-19 pandemic. So I've been compiling a number of resources from the conversations I've been having with CFOs and other finance professionals and share with you today on this Monday Memo. But before we go into it, someone sent me a link to a Bill Gates 2015 TED Talk called The Next Outbreak, We're Not Ready. And, reviewing that, I thought he was very prescient about the current COVID-19 pandemic. It's something that potentially, in terms of our reaction, we could have probably been a bit more proactive around. Many CFOs and finance teams have been reacting, scrambling to keep their businesses open and essential services going. So hopefully we can sort of learn from what we're going through and take such warnings seriously in the future. But let's focus on the now. What are we learning? What are finance and accounting professionals doing at the moment so that we can make better actions across our profession, across our communities, and better survive and emerge or on the other side? So the way I've been looking at this is that finance teams nowadays, our responsibilities are typically much broader, and I've sort of split them into two. One is actions being taken with just specific focus on the finance organization, and then others being taken with finance support for the benefit of the rest of the business and more operation specific. So if we look at just finance functions themselves, there was a recent survey being done by Gartner on what's keeping CFOs awake at night. And what's really getting most of their attention is the immediate and longer term implications of the crisis. There's 4 times as many respondents indicating this reason for keeping them awake as opposed to the fourth place supply chain constraints. And this is obviously to do with protecting the continuity of the business. And actually we're in the process of putting together a panel to have a videoed panel debate on this sort of topic, keeping businesses open, business continuity and so on. But for now, what have finance leaders been doing? Well, it's been very much a tougher, more cost-focused discipline. This has ranged from simple enough things to implement, like freezing new hires, which is being done a lot in the energy and technology sectors. In the more medium-sized organisations and sporting organisations, they've had to share pain with their frontline staff. So that's involved pay cuts between 5% and all the way up to 80%. Yes, 80%. With the more senior levels taking the larger cuts. And then, there has been layoffs in finance with all but skeleton crews remaining, particularly in travel and hospitality sectors. So, that's a bit unfortunate, but where finance has been able to make a difference is being part of value capture teams, where they've combined with, say, human resources, purchasing, facilities, IT, and helped identify other cost-saving opportunities, treating the current situation like you say they would when you have a company acquire another company. You do the due diligence, you see where there's value creation, synergy opportunities, and so on. Now that said, there is a continual investment going on in IT, CapEx, to support remote work capabilities, virtualization, and also keep the path going towards delivering longer-term cost savings. The order of the day seems to be zero-based budgeting. A lot of budget has been thrown out the window, and businesses have to justify every element of their expense now, so that the distinction between what's fundamental and sort of less necessary can be better understood, and those unnecessary expenses in the short term anyway cut. Obviously, marketing spend is being frozen, and investment only really be put into social media expenditure. And interestingly, there's negotiations going on with vendors to share some of the pain and apply sort of discounts to ongoing contracts or deferring the start dates of particular contracts. I suppose some of us might have had events planned or planning to attend training courses and so on. A lot of those have just been cut or moved online, and again at a lower expense to our organisations. And a lot of smaller organisations actually have been trying to renegotiate loans with their banks. The larger ones have been looking at the swap markets, trying to get better. Similarly with Customers. Companies have been implementing programs to either extend discounts with them, deferrals, modelling the impact of these sort of delayed cash inflows. One executive I was talking to reminded his finance organisation that, do what you can for your customers during this time, and they will remember those companies that helped them out. So it could be as simple as trying to adapt policies to handle situations where customers are having difficulty in raising, say, paper-based purchase orders because they're no longer in the office and have access to all the normal tools that they have. So it's just being a bit more adaptable. And with that sort of theme in mind, slipping over to the operational perspective I mentioned earlier, we're in the early stages of the Covid-19 cases, so they're growing and are not really showing any sign of peaking yet. So CFOs, along with other business leaders, are really reinforcing the health and safety of the whole organisation, of the staff. So they've been running shorter shifts with people to reduce the social distancing impacts, rotating shifts, checking workers' temperatures before they start their shifts on the way in. Also, a lot of them have been bringing in general practitioners or medical experts onto video calls to help answer questions and allay employee concerns and fears. Also, I don't know about you, I've never had a virtual coffee until very recently, so they're being more encouraged every day so people can keep connected with each other. Also, a lot more use of Slack, Trello, Microsoft Teams for collaboration, and Zoom and WhatsApp for calls and meetings. Obviously, there's concerns, particularly for some smaller, more agile organisations who are more global in nature. Not all governments are funding social welfare schemes for companies with staff in other countries. So it's actually tough decisions are having to be made about staff being laid off, left behind, or being sort of covered on lower wages. And I suppose the big concern is how is all this going to shake out as we enter into the next quarter? Annual plans, as I said, have already gone out the window. Business continuity plans will need to be rewritten, particularly where organisations haven't embraced things like paperless offices and remote working. But the worst thing to do is, when the dust settles, is not to have learned anything from this. And maybe we should be evaluating other things like, climate change, Brexit, the risk of future pandemics, and think about those a bit differently now into our scenario modelling. So with that in mind, again, as I mentioned, we're arranging a panel. We're going to air it over the next couple of weeks around keeping businesses open, as well as keeping essential services going. So stay tuned for that. And that's the whole point of the Strength in the Numbers show, to share with you what's working, what's not working, what are people doing, where are people thinking at, particularly in these times of crisis when we're having to react. And it's just, if we sort of share those sort of lessons we're learning at the moment, it just helps the rest of us through, positions us better for the future. So look, really appreciate you tuning in today. Again, if you like the show, please share it with your colleagues, friends. They can subscribe on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube and Spotify. And we really appreciate you investing your time with us today. So until next time, take care of yourselves and let's keep on building our Strength in the Numbers.